Hey guys, I hope we're good. Today I am talking about managing your stress and why it is crucial as a property investor to manage your stress when on a fitness journey. Your stress can literally make or break your progress. It can make or break whether you're going to hit your goals or once again whether you're going to give up and whether you're going to go back to square one. So tune in, listen to what I've got to say because I'm going to give you some super easy actionable tips that you can go away with and put into action straight off the back of this video. Okay, so first things first, stress isn't necessarily a bad thing, but too much stress is what is going to cause you to fall off plan. It's going to have cause you to have all of the negative side effects, and ultimately going to cause you to have that feeling of pulling out your hair that we don't want. Okay, so let me explain this in a bit of an easier way. And when I say a bit of an easier way, I'm going to use a scientific term straight away that you may or may not understand. When we're talking about stress, there's something called allostatic load. Allostatic load is the cumulative burden of stress on the body as a whole from every single direction, no matter what you're doing. So this could be from your work, it could be from your partner, it could be from your kids, it could be from exercising and training, it could be from listening to the news, to a guy that's pissed you off today when you were walking down the street. That stress is all added into one. That is called your allostatic load. Now, what happens, to put this into an easy example, I said I was going to do an easy example. If you imagine your allostatic load of your capacity of what you can take, everybody has a different capacity, as a bucket, okay? And you add all these things in there. So we throw in the wife and the family and the kids, and then we throw in your work, and we throw in the conversation that you need to have with an estate agent today. We throw in a deal that's on the table that's worth a lot of money. We then throw in some exercise. We then throw in someone that's pissed you off on the way to work. And then we throw in that World War III is about to start and every country seems to be invading everyone. That's in the back of everybody's mind. And you see it, hear it on the news all the time. You throw that in as well. What happens is ultimately, with this bucket, you only have a certain amount of capacity. If that capacity starts overflowing, if you put too much in there, that is called overloading, allostatic overload. Okay. So what then happens is your body can't take it. And ultimately that's going to lead you to a place of low energy, fatigue. It's going to lead you to a place of getting ill all the time. So maybe if you're sitting here right now and you look back at the past year, if you've been ill all the time or a few times throughout the year, if you've been ill a few times throughout the year, if you find that you have low energy, you're struggling with fatigue, lethargy, if that is you, then there's quite a high possibility that I'm speaking directly to you and you are experiencing allostatic overload, aka your body has, you're holding on to too much stress, okay? And honestly, as a property investor, you are incredibly prone to allostatic overload. You are incredibly prone to being too stressed, okay? Because you've got so much going on, so many of those examples that I just mentioned. On top of that, you're probably super ambitious, so there's a lot of self-applied pressure, a lot of self-applied stress to hit your goals, okay? And yeah, ultimately, you're very much prone to this. So I think this will be a really useful chat, a useful podcast for you to take away. Now, why can this make or break your fitness journey? Now, there's some very specific examples that I'm going to give you, but first I'm going to give you a really broad one. Ultimately, if you're really stressed, you're more likely to make bad decisions. You're more likely to fall off track. You're more likely to fall off plan. Ultimately, if you're really stressed, you are going to be experiencing more fatigue. You are going to be experiencing worse recovery when you sleep. You're going to be experiencing tiredness, low energy, so on and so forth. So ultimately, it's going to make it harder to hit your goals because you literally have less capacity to go out there and get shit done when it comes to getting in the gym, getting your movement done, even making good decisions when it comes to your diet and stuff. Those things need capacity, they need energy, rather than you're always going to go for the convenient thing if you want the easy option, okay? But more than that, even more specifically, being highly stressed can lead to elevated cortisol levels, which can then lead to fat storage in specific areas that we typically don't want. So for example, elevated cortisol levels can lead to fat storage around the midsection. Now, that's not to say that the fat's going to come out of anywhere, and ultimately if you're eating in a calorie deficit, that you're going to get fat anyway. It just means that if you are eating too much, your fat storage is more likely to be around your midsection, which is ultimately where we probably don't want to hold it for an aesthetic reason. We want to get rid of the belly, if anything, okay? So really important that can have an effect on how you are storing your fat as well. The second thing, second, third, fourth, I don't know, but the next thing is it can have a huge effect on your recovery from your workouts due to higher inflammation. Ultimately, if you're more stressed, you're more likely to experience high inflammation. I'm going to go through a couple of things that can help with that shortly. And then, of course, as I've already alluded to, your mental clarity is going to be much more clouded and you're going to be worse at making decisions. Ultimately, if you consistently have this fog over your eyes, you don't know how to make the decisions, you don't even know where you're looking to make the decisions. Whereas if hypothetically we get rid of this fog and we have really nice clear vision, we have pure clarity, pure vision, it means that we can make these decisions so much easier. And the way that I see a lot of entrepreneurs operate is with this fog over their eyes, where they're super stressed and they just always go for the easy option, they always go for the convenient option. So actually getting rid of that stress first is one of the quickest wins that you can do, because it makes everything so much easier. So yeah, think about that bucket, think about your allostatic load. What are those things that you can get out of that bucket to bring your capacity down and stop it from overflowing? Some simple things would be like cutting the news out, making sure that you don't listen to the news. For me, Twitter is an awful one, because Twitter is just full of negativity and stuff. So just blocking that on my phone gave me a lot of energy back because it wasn't just consistently reminding me of how shit the world was. Things like that. It might be a specific person in your business, in your work, that you need to have a conversation with and just say, hey, look, I would appreciate it if we did this, this and this instead of the way that we're currently operating, because it's stressing you out. You need to have these conversations and do these things in order to reduce your allostatic load. And actually, you might be sitting here and you might be thinking, am I too highly stressed? It might be obvious to some of you, but to others, you might be thinking, am I too highly stressed? Am I experiencing allostatic overload? So I'm just going to give you a few signs that might give you a good picture into whether this is you. Number one, like I said, was experiencing fatigue, experiencing tiredness all the time. That is not normal. I know the hustle hard and the grind set and whatever else is we can call it nowadays. You're made to feel like that's normal, but it's absolutely not. And even further than that, I'm going to come on to this in a bit, but even further than that, if you're in that position of constantly being tired, stop wearing it like a fucking medal of honor. It's not at all. It is not a badge of honor. It's not a badge that you've done something correctly. It is something that you're doing wrong, and it is impacting your ability to be at your best. Okay, so if you're constantly tired, if you're experiencing fatigue, you may be highly stressed, and you may be experiencing too much stress, and you might be allostatically overloaded. Difficult losing weight despite your efforts, and again, the other simple signs are experiencing illness relatively often. If you're getting ill 2, 3, 4, 5 plus times per year, then that is a very big sign. And then also just your general mood throughout the day. If you're consistently irritable, snappy with your loved ones, you're not actually operating how you'd like to operate if you could choose in terms of your mood, again, that's a really good sign that you're probably highly stressed. So I want to give you some quick tools to manage your stress levels and bring your allostatic load down. So like I've suggested already, we want to be bringing those things out of the bucket to stop it from overflowing, so to speak. And I know I said at the start that exercise can ultimately add into the stress, add into your allostatic load, and it absolutely can, but it can also do the opposite. It can also take away. So we want to make sure that we're completing the right type of exercise, that we're not pushing ourselves too hard, and that we're picking and choosing our battles when it comes to that. So for example, if I take individual A, that is a property investor that is extremely highly stressed. They live in a city, central London. They're constantly going around doing site visits. They've bought a silly amount of properties this year, and they have 101 things to do every single day. They're really, really stressed, high allostatic load. Individual B is a person that lives in Bali, right? I say they live in Bali, they have an amazing life. They get to walk on the beach every morning and watch the sunrise. They walk on the beach and watch the sunset. They have little to no stress. They're like financially free. Maybe they got inheritance or something, so they don't even have to worry about money. This is like the complete opposite, right? Individual B, so the person that lives in Bali, can afford to push themselves a ridiculous amount in the gym because they have less stress. They have more room to maneuver into when it comes to their recovery and that allostatic load. They have more room for that. They have more capacity. Whereas individual A might not have that luxury. They might not have the ability to do that because they have less capacity. So we have to understand that and understand that everybody's life's different, and we need to understand how much we can push that person. So it might be, if you are that person A, if you are extremely busy, if you are extremely extremely stressed, if you have a highly chaotic life, it might be that you start small. You start with 3 strength workouts a week that you're just focused on feeling good. You're not even focused on really pushing yourself, but you're focused on moving your body. And then as we go and as your body gets used to that load, we start to overload it. We start to push on forwards. We start to add more weight. We start to add more reps, and we get better at doing that thing. That's how we want to make sure that we're starting. Is like, it needs to be right for you. So again, I see so many people in property that want to go all in, that want to do things properly with their fitness straight away. And what happens is they look to start a gym program, they look to start working out, they look to start following a diet, and they do the hardest thing possible straight away. So it's like, hey, I'm going to go straight from doing nothing into 75-day hard. I'm going to work out twice a day. I'm going to follow a diet. I'm going to take a picture every day. That adds so much stress and so much allostatic load that all of a sudden, 20, 30 days in, the bucket starts overflowing and overflowing and overflowing. And that's when you break. That's when you quit. That is when that is when things go tits up ultimately. So what we want to make sure that we're doing is that it's fit to you, it's bespoke to your life, it's not cookie cutter, and that's what a lot of these things do. It's a lot of what other coaches do. It's a lot what a lot of things like 75-day hard do, and some people get through those things with pure willpower and attitude, but I'll tell you one thing, they never ever last. Their results never last. They always break at some point. So we need to make sure that we're building this up from the ground up. We've got the foundations of the pyramid in first, and then we can work ourselves towards the peak. Other exercise that you can fit in opposed to strength training would be something like stretching and mobility, yoga, Pilates. Those things are all going to be good for your stress management and for your allostatic load. And then on top of that, just some low intensity, steady state work is always going to be okay, because it doesn't take much out of you and you don't need much to recover from it either. Next is the role of sleep on stress and managing your allostatic load. Really important. If you listen to a few of my podcasts by now, you probably realize I'm a bit of a sleep nerd, and I think it is of the utmost importance, and that's because I've done a lot of reading around it, and I've done a lot of research around it, and the importance of it is absolutely huge, not just in the here and now on how you operate, but in the future on making sure that we're avoiding diseases, so on and so forth. It's very important to live a long, healthy, happy life, full of energy, full of abundance, and ultimately full of fulfillment and good mood. Okay, so anyway, enough about sleep and ranting. Sleep is important for your stress because it is going to manage your stress hormones like cortisol, like adrenaline, and then that's going to ultimately affect your response to other things like food, like your training, and ultimately your fat loss, your muscle gain, so on and so forth. So that's why it's so important. So if you are someone out there who has a completely sporadic sleep schedule at the moment, maybe you only get 5 or 6 hours a night, here's what I want you to do. Number one, I want you to avoid blue light 1 to 2 hours before you go to bed. So that's things like your TV screen, it's your phone screen, it's your laptop screen. I want you to avoid that and actually just start reading books instead before you go to bed with a small reading light. Number two is I want you to make sure that you have a consistent bedtime routine. So you're going to go to bed at the same time every night and you're going to wake up at the same time every morning. You might need an alarm to start with to wake up at the same time every morning, but after a period of time, I challenge you to start waking up on time without an alarm. That is, for me, that was a big change of improving my sleep quality, is waking up naturally. The next thing that I want you to do is your morning routine. I want you to make sure that you're getting some morning sunlight, even if you live in the UK and it's dark and it's gloomy and it's winter. If you get out when it's light, you're still getting what you need from the sun. You're still getting those nutrients. So you're going to walk into the sun just for 5 or 10 minutes and ultimately don't look directly into the sun because that's going to damage your eyes. But that is going to wake your system up, so to speak, and it's going to set your circadian rhythm later in the night as well. You're also going to avoid caffeine for the first 2 hours before you wake up, okay? Allow your body to wake up naturally. Don't then give yourself caffeine and use a drug to feel like to feel like you wake yourself up. That is not using caffeine as a tool. Use caffeine as a tool when you need it, when your energy starts to dip later in the morning. Wake up naturally first. And then to improve your sleep as well, we can start to look at using supplements where necessary. The first things first, we want to make sure that we get everything in order that I've just gone through. You want to make sure the foundations are set in place, but then I would look at using supplements such as ashwagandha. That's very good for stress management and it's very good for your sleep. And then I would look at using things like magnesium glycinate and there's a couple of other supplements as well, but I don't want to overload you. For your sleep, and using them in the nighttime to reduce your stress and improve the quality of your sleep. But the most important thing is having that schedule there, avoiding screens before you go to bed, and also avoiding food and drink within 1 to 2 hours of bed, even longer than that, actually, probably 2 to 3 hours of bed. Just avoid eating and avoid having too much water and stuff, because obviously you'll be getting up to wee, but avoid eating, because when you eat just before you go to bed, there's nothing that's going to kill you, but instead of resting, your body is then digesting food. It is processing that food, so your body's working instead of resting. So specific nutrition for lowering allostatic load, for lowering the stress on your body. What we ultimately want to look at is inflammation. And we want to make sure that we're choosing foods that are anti-inflammatory and we're avoiding foods that are inflammatory. So some examples of inflammatory foods. So ultimately, if you think about inflammation, if you just think about that word, it's like inflames, right? It's a very stressful word. So if you think about inflammation, it's stress in particular points of the body. That's why we want to reduce it. So in terms of inflammatory foods and foods that we may want to avoid, you might want to avoid too many processed foods. That goes for overly processed meats. It goes for overly processed carbohydrate sources, sweets, chocolate, so on and so forth. Even overly processed things like bread using white flour and wraps using white flour and this kind of thing. I want to avoid having too much of those. And I will state again, I eat these things all the time, right? I'm going to have a chocolate bar later tonight. But I do practice what I preach, because I will state that the devil is in the dose and everything in moderation is okay, but we don't want to go overboard with things. Inflammatory foods may include things like, but not limited to, fatty fishes. So things like salmon, things like mackerel, it might include nuts, leafy greens, vine tomatoes, seeds, so on and so forth. There's a whole list that I could run off here, but the biggest bit of advice that I'd give you is get on Google, go on anti-inflammatory foods, have a look at a list, and then that gives you a good picture, rather than me just going through it here and you forgetting absolutely everything. Or if you want to have a conversation about this and you believe this kind of fits you, just reach out to me. I'm more than happy to have a quick conversation, whether that's over a DM or a phone call. I'm more than happy to help. And then when it comes to nutrition, I mentioned this earlier, so I'll quickly go over it, is don't add too much stress to yourself by following an extreme diet. If you're following something that cuts all of your favorite things out, if you're following something that cuts literally a whole macronutrient out, for example, a keto diet cuts your carbohydrates out, or the carnivore that cuts everything out, you're just going to add yourself mental stress. You're going to add yourself physical stress as well, because you're not going to be recovering so well. So make sure that it's actually fit for you, it's bespoke around your life, and you're not adding stress around your life from your diet. So a few things that you can do to manage your stress, and to ultimately some techniques that you can implement on a daily basis to manage your stress. And some of these you might think they're a little bit like woo-woo or whatever, but they work. They're really good, okay? So again, when it comes to sleep quality, when it comes to ultimately waking up full of energy, a lot of the time where even if you get 6, 7, 8, 9 hours of sleep, you're waking up tired, is because your quality of sleep was poor. So something that personally helped me was getting my thoughts on paper before I went to bed, and that is known as journaling, right? So you're going to get yourself a journal. I would buy a nice journal, I'd spend some money on it, and I'd buy a nice pen, I would spend some money on it, so it feels nice to write in. And I don't mean loads and loads, but it might be a £20 notebook and a £20 pen, but you don't want to feel like you're at school. You want to feel like it's something nice. So you get yourself a nice pen and notebook, and you're going to write simply, when you go to bed, you're going to write absolutely everything that is concerning you, worrying you, that is on your mind. I would probably do this 2-3 hours before bed and just get it out, get your thoughts on paper. You won't believe the difference that has as to holding your thoughts up here in your mind to actually getting them out on paper. And look, I would write everything down until I could not write any more. So you want to get to a point where you literally can't think of anything else to write. Anything that's on your mind, anything that you're stressed about, anything that you're worried about. It's a really useful technique. Look, you don't ever have to read it again. No one ever has to see it. You can rip it up after. You can put it in a fire. It doesn't matter. It's just get a process of getting out of your head, get it onto paper, okay? Really, really, really important. Next is some mindfulness and meditation techniques. You could just start with meditating for 5 minutes a day, whether that's in the morning, the evening, whenever you can fit it in. Meditation's a great way to center yourself. It's a great way to bring yourself back to your mission, bring yourself back to your vision, and align yourself with why certain things are important and what's not important as well. And then in the same realm as meditation is breathing and breathwork and breathwork techniques. The most simple breathwork technique that I can give you is, and by the way, everything's breathwork, right? Like, it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be crazy. You might just, if you're feeling really stressed, literally just focus on your breath, close your eyes for 1 minute and focus on breathing through your nose and slowing your breaths right down. So doing a nice 4 seconds in and 4 seconds out. Okay. Even doing that it's going to slow. Obviously, it's going to slow your breathing down, but it's going to reduce the stress on your CNS, your central nervous system, and support you from by managing your stress. Okay, but you can also look at things like box breathing, and then there's even more deeper techniques when it comes to your breath work if you look into it. But honestly, slowing your breathing down and box breaths are the easiest, simplest ways when you are feeling stressed, just to sit at your desk and do that. And then one thing to proactively manage your stress, I talked about this in my last podcast. I probably talked about it in a load of other stuff. My clients are probably sick of me telling them, is time blocking your weeks. It's selecting times and blocking them out on your calendar and your diary for your downtime. So for example, on a Saturday, I have the whole day blocked out and it says king time because I'm the king. I need to look after myself, right? So it says king time. And on that day, I know that that's my day to go do what I want. I know that it's planned into the diary. I know I'm not going to look at my work phone that day. I know that my clients now know because I've set the boundary that they can't get hold of me on a Saturday. And I'll go play golf, or I'll go for a date day with Ali, or we'll go do something fun that's going to de-stress me. It's going to take the load off me so I can then be at my best throughout the week, okay, and throughout the next week. And finally, I want you to reframe the way that you view your fitness goals. I want you to reframe the way that you view your health goals. No longer is it about doing things as quick as possible, as hard as possible, getting in the best shape in 8 weeks, in 6 weeks, in 12 weeks, or whatever. I want you to view it as you changing yourself, completely changing your identity to someone who operates as a healthy person and someone with amazing energy levels, someone in a brilliant mood, so on and so forth, that best version of yourself. So reframe that your fitness journey and your health journey is going to support your business, not hinder it. If you do things in the correct way, your business will really benefit and it will take off. It won't do the opposite thing. I hear so many individuals, so many property investors say, oh, I've got this deal going through at the moment, I can't focus on my health. It's the completely wrong mindset. If you want to get in shape, you have to have the mindset that this is going to be something that you do for the rest of your life, and that includes when you're at your busiest, okay? But if you do it correctly, your energy will skyrocket. You will become a bigger asset in your business. You will perform to your absolute peak, and that is the benefit of focusing on yourself and doing the work. So yeah, I would challenge you to have a look at your past month, your past year, your past whatever time frame, and challenge yourself to have an inward look of how stressed you are. If you've been getting ill all the time, if you are experiencing some fatigue and some tiredness, it's likely that a lot of the stuff that I've just gone through is useful for you and that you should implement it. That being said, if you do want to explore that and have more of a specific chat, just reach out to me. I'm more than happy to have a chat. We can have a chat over DM, voice note, or a quick phone call. And yeah, I'll be more than happy to help. Guys, if that is useful, I won't ask you to do much, but I will ask you to subscribe to the channel. It'd mean more to me than you know, and you'll get more useful tips, tricks like this. So yeah, subscribe, share with your friends, share with someone that you think would be useful, and let's make the world a fitter and healthier and happier place.